I don't have a gavel, but I do have 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the June 21st, 2022 Village Board meeting to order. Brent, you're standing. Will you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brent. Roll call, Allison.
Trustee Bonnie?
Here.
Trustee Lindy? Here. Trustee White?
Here.
Trustee Heron?
Here.
Trustee Shonas?
Here.
Trustee Walter?
Here.
President Conan?
Here. Thank you all very much. We have a quorum.
1 second. President Conan?
I just want to, for not only my benefit, but for Jared's benefit, as you all know, the audio is terrible. So I'm going to ask that you be very cognizant in the room, not to speak over each other and have conversations going at the same time. It's very difficult for us to hear. If it becomes too difficult, I'll turn the meeting over to Trustee Heron to run, but I'd like not to do that. I hope to keep the meeting moving smoothly and to the point where Jared and I can both hear. So I don't know if you have the same troubles, but there is, as we all know, there is quite an echo in the room. So moving forward, first up, we do have a...
Jen, it's on you.
Yeah?
So we've got to approve you before we get started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Are there any objections to me, to President Conan on a remote call this evening? Hearing no objections? Hearing no objections, I assume I'm moving forward. Thank you. And obviously for the public, if this is a health issue, we do have a positive COVID case in our house. And out of abundance of caution, I am participating remotely. I do not have COVID, so just so you all know. Okay, moving forward. First up, we do have a public hearing for the Hannaford Farm Lot 43 Annexation Agreement Amendment. Walter?
Thank you. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments from the public concerning an annexation agreement amendment for Lot 43 Hannaford Farm. This is what is by now a routine action by the village board with lots in the Hannaford Farm. But for the record, the purpose of it is to recognize that the lot owner is going to pay the fee in lieu of developer fee that is required in the annexation agreement. And upon payment, the village will release the lispendence notice on the lot and remove the lot from its obligations in the completion of the subdivision.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing at this time. Are there any public comments regarding the Hannaford Farm Lot 43 Annexation Agreement Amendment? As I can't see the audience, if anyone can let me know if there is any public comment.
No.
Okay. There we go. Going once. Going twice. Okay, we will close that portion. Thank you very much. No appointments or presentation. I saw Joe in the audience. Airport report.
I had these airport reports passed out. Madam President, do you have yours with you?
I'm sorry, Joe.
You have your municipal airport financial report with you at this time?
I can pull it up.
Okay, well, I brought it, and I would like to report on it.
Okay, that's fine.
Now, this goes back to 2019, but it gives a general idea of at that time what the airport value was and what it gave to the community. As you can see, the routes covered the entire country. There are planes flying in and out the entire country. On airport activity, the state says it's 121.7 million. On visitor spending, it's 18.2 million. Employment, there's 748 jobs, and I'm not sure where they got that figure, unless it's airport-related jobs somehow, but it seems like double what I've been told is their employment. Air cargo at this time, they don't have any air cargo at the airport. Labor income is 50.9 million, and these are all figures from the State of Illinois Aviation Department from 2019. On the economic impact, that says that this is the economic impact on the area around the airport. The city of Aurora and surrounding communities that probably go out 50, 60 miles that people are employed there and to come to work at the airport. So it's $139.9 million at this time, at 2019, which is quite a bit. But Aurora has a 50,000, I think 50,000, or is it $500,000 deficit. But the airport economic activity makes up for it as tourists fly in and out for activities through Aurora, and so they gain that way. And all of these things will increase with REV coming in this year, because they're adding a lot of employees, and they're adding a lot of buying up a lot of businesses at airports in a four-state area. And I'm not sure how big they're going to be, but they bought a business at the Omaha airport, so they're going big. They're going to big cities and trying to air transportation, I guess, is going to be their big thing. So with the corporate offices in Aurora, I think there's an advantage for Aurora to really take part in the economic gains that REV will bring to this area, because even though REV is on Aurora property, it's in Sugar Grove, and the businesses at the airport, if we have are going to come to them and purchase and stay or eat or whatever. So there's great opportunities for making friends with people who have REV. I know I've asked for a meeting with Guy and some of the airport officials have luncheon at Prairie Point. And he's called me, and I missed his call, and I called him a couple times. And we haven't been able to connect to find a date for the meeting. But I hope to contact him and find a date where we can have a luncheon at the meeting. I've also invited Peter and Ingra to the luncheon if they're in town. I told him if Peter and Ingra are in town, they can come to the luncheon. Now, there were travelers, and they probably not be, but I thought, what the heck, I'll invite them. And if they come, fine. If they don't, fine. But I thought, slow that out, take a chance. You never know. So I'll keep you informed of any luncheon date and see who can attend and when it'll be. I'm sure it'll happen, but the CEO is pretty busy. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Joe. I was just going to ask the board if there's any questions for you.
Pardon?
I said I was just going to ask the board if there were any questions for you. I can't see the rest of the board, so I assume by the fact that no one is speaking up that we're good. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Joe, very much. We look forward to your hospitality, and hopefully the meeting can get scheduled soon.
Yeah.
Okay, up next I have public comment on items scheduled for action. This evening under consent agenda we have item A, approval of the minutes of the June 7th, 2022 Village Board meeting. B, approval of the vouchers. C, approval of the treasurer's report. D, an ordinance authorizing execution of the annexation agreement amendment, Hannaford Farm Lot 43, address at 1672 Hannaford Drive. E, a resolution authorizing the release of public improvement guarantee on the Gordon Road Quiet Zone project, subject to attorney review and inspection, or subject to attorney review. Under general business, we have item A, presentation, business district blight analysis and plan. Item B, an ordinance setting the public hearing date for the establishment of a business district. Item C, a resolution agreement with ComEd for design engineering to relocate electric lines underground along Route 47. Are there any public comments on any of those items that are scheduled for action?
Hi, Jennifer. I don't know if you can hear me or not. This is Jim Eckert.
I can hear you. Thank you, Jim.
What I'd like to talk to you a little bit before you start my 3 minutes. I don't know if Allison, you're starting my 3. Heidi, Tesla's making some great strides on the shingles, the solar shingles.
Right.
So they're in the testing phase right now. So I'll let you know when that comes up. But right now they are making pretty good strides. So
I know they will.
Hey, Jim, I don't want to cut you off. I just, because it is public comment time, I'm just going to allocate 3 minutes, and then if there's anything that staff wants to ask, or the village board rather would like to ask regarding comment item C under general business, we can always bring you back for discussion as part of that as well.
sure. Thank you very much. So tonight what I'd like to talk a little bit about is the agreement with ComEd on the design engineering to relocate electric lines underground for 47. So I lived this for the last 10 years about relocating electric lines. So a couple things I want to bring up. As I was reading through the comments, it basically said this is for aesthetics only. Okay, so it's not a question of reliability. If we had cable faults in there, ComEd would be required to improve the line reliability itself after a number of faults. They'd have to replace it. And being overhead, that's one of the things. By going underground, you will have the potential of extending outages. Okay, and what I mean by that is when you see a power line above ground, you can see where the cable fault is. Underground, you can't see it. Okay, and when I was on storm duty, when I did relocations, to get cable faults under concrete, you're looking at hours upon hours of outages, trying to locate it, bring a digger truck in, trying to isolate it, redo it, okay? So that's one thing that you want to do is there is an issue. Second is contractor diggings. No matter how much you duly market, there is occasionally out-of-town contractors who will come in and they'll spike the line, and you'll have another outage. The other thing too is when you look at it, there's still overhead lines that will exist on the other side of 47, those for McDonald's. So you're only taking half the line right now. If it was really that much of an issue, I know we're talking TIF district, but why wouldn't you do the whole thing if it's aesthetically pleasing? The other thing too is you are going to add additional costs to developers who come in. Ground-mounted transformers, which you will have to be installed, are very expensive, okay, as far as that goes. So higher cost, long lead times. When we did our transformers, S&C, again, we don't know the load that's going to be there, so we don't know what they're going to be. We were 18 months before we could get some of our transformers. So I'm just cautioning you, before you move forward with this, it doesn't improve reliability. It can add additional costs to your developers. You don't know what your future is on that. You can always readdress it and maybe take the whole thing. But I just wanted to speak. I don't know how much more time I have. But, yeah, again, I've lived this. I don't think you really want to do that at this point in time, especially with development in the area. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Jim.
Yeah.
So, if we do bury these, does that prevent comment?
Hold on, Jamie. Jamie, I apologize. It's just public comment time. We can bring Jim back under that item for discussion if you have additional questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Are there any additional public comments at this time? Hearing none, we will close that portion. Thank you all. Up next, we have the consent agenda. Any requests to remove an item? Can I get a board member to remove item D?
Can we remove
Can a
item
board-
B, please?
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any other items? Any other items that need to be removed? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D, as previously stated?
As stated.
Second.
Is that a first out of Trustee Gomez?
Yes.
Yep.
And a second out of Trustee Heron? Okay. Roll call, please, Allison.
Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
Trustee Perrin?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy? Aye. Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Walter?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. I'm going to ask that we make a motion to postpone item D, the ordinance authorizing execution of an annexation agreement amendment for Hannaford Farm Lot 43, postponing it until the FILO fee is paid. Can I get someone to make that motion?
Second.
I'm sorry, I missed the White, and then first out of Trustee White and the second out of Trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please, Allison.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Walter?
Aye.
Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy? Aye. Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Up next, under general business, we have item A, a presentation for the Business District Blight Analysis and Plan. Matt.
Yeah, so at the May 17th meeting, we approved the economic, Moran Economic Development to do the blight analysis for the Business District for College Corners. Jared is here to discuss that analysis and plan, and it leads into the second item, which is setting a public hearing date for July 19th. So Jared can go through the presentation.
Okay, so what we have here is a business district redevelopment plan. In the business district, we've done some work with you guys in your TIF districts. Business district is similar. You have a redevelopment project area. You have revenues that are generated by that area that are spent within that area for certain eligible project costs. The main difference here, though, TIF districts deal with property taxes. A business district is solely funded by sales taxes, both existing and any future sales taxes that might be generated within a boundary area. But as I said, similar to TIF district, an area has to qualify in order for inclusion in a business district project area. The qualifications are a little different from TIF. It's not quite as strict. But basically, there are a variety of ways you can qualify an area as a business district, but the most common ones that we deal with is how it relates to an area, what's referred to as an economic liability to a municipality or economic underutilization of an area. And so what that is, and what we have found in the College Corner Business Improvement District area was primarily that you have an area that's losing a lot of its property values. Since 2016, the area has lost about 40% in total EAV. And so what this points to is that there's conditions in this area which are causing it to be a liability to the village, and that each year the village and associated taxing districts are losing those property tax revenues. And also, it's an economic underutilization of these properties in the village. We have the structure that's been sitting vacant, which is the primary cause for all the economic growth loss, or I should say the lack of any economic growth and contributing to the continual loss of property values. But also these undeveloped lots, mainly that if they were to be developed, they would generate significant amounts of revenues for both property and sales taxes. So overall, we found that this area, shown in the Exhibit A here, we found that this area does qualify for inclusion in a business district redevelopment project. And it's pretty simple. Basically, the goal of the plan is just to facilitate the redevelopment of the existing structure in the area, as well as to provide a resource to develop the rest of the lots that are in the area and to overcome some of those economic challenges that have been going on in this business district area. So as part of the process, it's again similar to TIF, but a little less stringent in that for the business district, going forward, what we'll need to do is do a public hearing. I will be up there in attendance for that public hearing. But then otherwise, as far as next steps in developing this program, we'll have a public hearing. We will, if everything goes according to plan, the village will adopt ordinances, and then we work with the Department of Revenue in registering the district. And from that, you will be done. But I want to note I appreciate the flexibility in letting me do this remotely. For business districts, it's important. There's 2 deadlines throughout the year to establish a business district. And so the next one we'd be looking at would be October 1. So that's why I appreciate being able to stick on schedule here, and we'll have all this hopefully adopted before that deadline, which will make the district go officially in effect January 1st, if everything does go according to that schedule. So with that, the next steps for tonight, we have an ordinance that will establish that public hearing date. And then if there are any questions about generally business district or the specifics to this plan, or any of the next steps, I'd be happy to address any of those at this moment.
Any board members have any questions at this time? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Jared, for dialing in remotely. You can appreciate what it's like on this end, listening to the board meeting. So we appreciate you dialing in and being patient with all of our technical issues. So thank you.
No problem. I appreciate you guys having me.
Okay, up next, I'm hearing no other discussion on that or no questions. Can I get a motion under item B to approve the ordinance setting the public hearing date for the establishment of the business district?
So moved. Second. Heron and White.
Heron and White. First out of Trustee Heron and the second out of Trustee White. Thank you, guys. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Walter.
Aye.
Trustee Shomas.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy. Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Up next, we have item C, a resolution, agreement with ComEd for design engineering to relocate electrical lines underground along 47. Jim, feel free to stand up to the podium. I know Jamie had questions for you, so if you don't mind coming back up. And we will go to Tony on this.
This is, Jim had brought it up a little bit, but this is the discussion undergrounding the overhead lines along Culver's and Walgreens and the two crossings of 47. So with ComEd, there's a cost for them to do the engineering, and they gave us an estimate of $68,000 to do the engineering because they believe their very high level estimate for their part of the project is $685,000. Now there are 3 other utility lines on there, and based on information that we had from the past, we're still waiting on information from those particular utilities. We estimate those at $100,000 each, which would bring this at $985,000 for a very high-level budget to underground the wires along Culver's and Walgreens. So that's just the starting point. That estimate to do the engineering is good for 60 days, and ComEd doesn't know exactly how long it would take for them to do the engineering, but they estimate 4 to 6 months. And then how long before they can do the project? Obviously, they said with some supply chain issues, it could take another several months longer if we actually gave them the go-ahead. They're really not able to pinpoint that at this time. So I guess anybody have any specific questions on that, or Jamie and Jim?
Yeah, I did have a question. That is, if we do bury these lines, is ComEd obligated to any additional lines they want to put in the future? They have to put them underground? No, can they still put them overhead?
No, according to the state, what ComEd is obligated to do as a public utility is to use the least cost method. So it doesn't matter if you go through and you put them underground, they're going to go overhead. Because it is the least cost method.
So if they have to run additional feeder lines south, that's it. They can just put in the poles and
yes,
run it.
Yeah, they've got an easement there, so they could put it up there. If it does turn out that, if they do size it large enough that they can put some underground conduit in, open underground conduit, they may find it is cheaper and easier to run it through there, but most likely they won't. Again, they have to use the least cost method. And you can't put it to a ratepayer for a future. It's usually a but-for cost. So we don't know what's going in there right now, so you could size it to what we think is going to be there, but all of a sudden you get a new developer coming in and they're putting in some type of light load machinery, or the airport wants to expand, and all of a sudden they're going to have to come back and redo things. But that would be the cost to the new person. That, again, the but-for cost. But just to burying for aesthetics, you're kind of shooting in the dark right now because you don't know what a load is right now as far as that goes. They can resize the lines the way they are right now. I would agree if we were having a lot of traffic incidents. We do have territories in which the poles are right next to the road. If people were hitting the poles or if there was a reliability issue, again, you could push back on ComEd if you had 3 outages in a certain period of time and they have to do something. They would have to improve the reliability. We don't have that right now. At least not that I'm aware of. Tell me, is there any reliability along that border?
Nothing specific that we're completely aware of.
Yeah.
There may be some on and off issues with Walgreens, but we're still doing additional research to see if there's any progress.
Yeah, because you see the lines going across 47. So what would require that then is transformers, and then you have to, if you're going to carry them underneath the road or still above 47, they're still going to be there. And you got all the work coming up with 47 with the 4 lane from Yorkville. It'd be nice if we could tack that on and see if ComEd would vary as part of that project. But anyways, so no, that's, the answer to your question is no. They would not, they could put poles right back up again.
So one of the things that I saw in April, pardon me, down 59 was, you know, they buried a bunch of utilities there, and then they came in with towers, you know, down 59.
Yeah, Naperville is one of those donut holes. They're their own municipality, so they can really do what they want. They're their own. We have a tie line with them, but they basically just get their own power. We're part of ComEd. They're their own Naperville utility.
Right, but they commented on, I think they put up those.
You may have
towers.
Yeah.
59.
Yeah. We do serve them on emergency load out there. Yeah, they get any time to come back in and say, no, you know, and what's coming across the street, you would if we put a downtown center there or whatever's coming in, you may force them to put pad mount transformers in. And again, the long lead time material, the expenses are just going up.
So, Jim, and I know part of this is about aesthetics, and I know there is concern about underground wires and faults and stuff like that. So do you believe that it reduces, you know, obviously storm damage or anything, or?
Actually, your outage cycle times go down when we have overhead lines because you can see where the break is. You know, you have auto reclosure schemes that are there. So what it does, it has a sensing to it. If you have a ground fault, there's no sensing. It's going to open up the line. And ComEd will have to send a tech out, a crew out to refuse it, and then put it back in place. Overhead is always the most practical, especially in a commercial district, because you can see where the breaks are. It's also easier to resize and increase the load too.
And part of one thing that we could discuss here or in the future is if we ever feel that we're interested in undergrounding the east side of 47. I know you said that that's still above ground. And I do believe that Prairie Grove, the developer, is looking at undergrounding their part, Galena going south. Obviously, you did bring it up that basically at Galena to Jewel there's 3 crossings of 47, which is kind of an unusual configuration. I think it's just how everything developed over time, because there was a gas station and a bank and nothing else. And so I guess what we were looking to do tonight is to see if we want to move forward with the engineering, to move forward with the project to get a better price, or if we're don't want to move forward. So I guess that's kind of what we're looking at.
Sounds to me like we're better served waiting until more develops. It's still a very undeveloped area. We've got all the southeast and all the southwest, and it's still a decent part of the northwest as well.
And even if it doesn't develop right away, there are changes coming with 47.
Right.
So maybe just sit on it and see if we could do it. If we did do it, we could see if they could do something when they change 47, or maybe we sit on it until we start to develop.
Yeah, I would recommend if you find a large load customer coming in, how are they going to handle their load needs? I mean, I don't know how much the capacity is on those lines right now, but they're probably pretty served right now. ComEd can only go up to 80%, and then they have to look at expansion or putting additional load on, reconductoring, or putting another phase on. So they're required as well. So, I mean, there's some caveats if you wait. I mean, I'm not telling which way to go, but yeah, there's some other avenues you can pursue.
So I know when we were looking at developing this area, traffic consultants were telling us that we were going to have a few more lanes. And, you know, I don't know how much room we have right now with right-of-way that's already been dedicated, or whether we're going to have to be acquiring additional right-of-way to do that. And is that going to be then relocating, you know, these power lines that we're looking at spending so much to repair? Just seems to me the prudent thing is to wait until we get a little bit more development and we know where it's going to go.
I see no return on spending $1 million to the community, and obviously this $1 million could be spent for actually development. Spur development, support new development. I drive through there a lot, and when I notice it, look for it, it's a lot there, but I didn't notice it, didn't notice it's big. But
Yeah, there's some equipment on the lines right now. When you go by Walgreens, you'll see some big boxes on like this third pole in. It's an auto reclosure scheme. So if you do have contact with the lines, what it does is it senses it. It tries to lock it back in after 3 seconds, and it'll open up. It'll try to sense it again, and then it'll open up completely. So it is the logic they've already built in those lines to try to avoid outages. And so far, I think they've done very well with that. And that's something that has to be reconfigured. That's why probably one of the cost estimates is so high, because they didn't put that logic into the transformers and stuff. If they could. So.
I guess what I'm hearing from my phone right now is it doesn't sound like there's any interest in moving this forward. At this time, I see Heidi saying no. From what was presented in the board report, it looks like you would be approving roughly $68,000, with an anticipated cost of roughly $1 million. So if you're not okay with the $1 million fee and everything, all the discussion that just went on, then obviously there's no point in spending $68,000 to move this forward at this time.
Agreed.
Okay. So does this just die? Do I have to ask for a motion and let it die on the floor, Laura, or can I just leave it alone?
Hey, you can have a consensus not to move forward with it, or you could also have a motion and vote it down, so it's up to you. There's not really right or wrong way.
Okay, so we're just not going to move forward with that. Okay. Thank you, Jim, for being an expert in the area and participating on this one. Okay, item 10, we have public comment again. Any public comments on any items at all, or anything that you would like to bring forward to the board at this time? Is there any public comments?
Joe Wolf.
So Joe Wolf, please. No? Do you have...
I found out that Kalen doesn't have a practice that they had when I was on the school board. At that time, unexcused absence students were collected, the names were collected and given out to the local police departments, so that if they weren't in school, somebody had an idea where they were and what they were doing. Now, I understand Kalen doesn't do that anymore, but I thought it's not a bad idea. It worked well, but I know there's a lot of privacy concerns now. But kids ought to be in school, and if they're not in school, somebody ought to know what they're doing. And they don't need to be running around our town without someone being aware. In today's day and age, we have to be aware of what's going on in our community. The children of our community should be somewhat the responsibility of the community. And that, we have a park district, we have schools, we have everything. But it has to go beyond that, where we all take responsibility to see that they're raised properly and, don't get in trouble. If they do, they should be held accountable. So, I just think that if you have any influence with the Kalen School Board, you ask them why they're not doing it, and if they would consider doing it, because I think it's something that we should be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Did I use my 3 minutes?
That's all right. I think I was just asking staff but I think you're fine.
Pardon? Can I say one more thing?
In a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have I used my 3 minutes?
You've got 1 minute left.
Okay. At Prairie Point, where I live, they're looking for help in the kitchen. For if you have any children 16 or over, they could be hired as waiters or waitresses, kitchen help. And it's a good job. We have 3 or 4 Canelan students there right now working, and they like it. They're going to work evenings and every other weekend, so it's a nice job. I would say that, you know, you're looking for employment, you meet a lot of nice little people, and you know, and they do everything, including cleaning out the garbage cans. So, I'm just saying, if you have children and they want to work, there's a job.
Just not during school hours.
Not during school
They
hours.
can't skip school to do it, right?
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any additional public comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, I will close that portion. Up next under discussion, item A, zoning variation, laser wash, for 45 Wheeler Road. Walter.
We have to ask about the day
Well, I'm sorry, I gotta pull it up who wrote the board report. Walter, you can pass it to Danny, but it's, Walter wrote the board report.
Very good.
Okay, so we had an applicant for the car wash at 45 Wheeler Road. He applied for a zoning variation regarding signage. We held a public hearing with the Plan Commission. And the Plan Commission has recommended, the Plan Commission recommendation is to allow him a variation of his variation request. They are proposing that the village board approve 175% of the total signage, which would give him 375 square feet of wall signage total. He can disperse it between his 4 walls however he would like. The Plan Commission also recommended that the village board approve his request for variation to allow him to have 3 menu boards as opposed to the permitted 3. He would like 1 menu board at each car wash bay.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Any discussion?
Seems reasonable for the business.
What was that, Sean?
Seems reasonable for the business to have one at each stall.
Would agree. Would agree. I think the signboards are fine, it's the other signs that I'm most concerned.
The size,
Yeah, it might be helpful to break it into 2 separate issues.
Okay.
175 square feet is what you're talking about? Is that total, or is that just the, where it says Premier Laser?
Well, that's total.
Total with the each bay and the,
In the graphic.
yeah.
So Danny, as I read the request, it looks like just the total signage requested at 607 square feet, and the maximum allowed per our ordinance is 213. I get that as a, 65% more than our current ordinance allows?
Correct.
Okay, so then it begs the question to me, 2 things for the village board to consider would be, do we need any updates to our ordinance as far as our sign ordinance is concerned, if you're considering increasing it by 65%? Or is a 65% increase too large, but yet we still need to modify our sign ordinance? So I'm looking for discussion on that.
Well, with respect to your question about whether or not the variation is a sign that we need to look at our sign regulations, I would say not, because this is if we had a a rash of requests to increase sign area, I might say maybe we should look at that. But this is a like a one-off situation. We don't get a lot of variation requests like this. So I would say the sign ordinance is probably okay as is.
Is there also a standalone sign on 47?
Yes.
Yes.
How big was that?
I do not have the size on that. I know he's in regulation permitted for that. I don't have his size. Do you have?
I don't know. It's the existing Superior car wash sign that was there. There's the low one. It's not on a pole or anything. I want to say it's 8 foot.
And that's, for bridge signage, you're not including the blue band all the way around, is that correct?
No.
Right.
So Danny, can you maybe, if I'm understanding, the original request was 607 square feet. Our code would allow 213, and the Plan Commission recommended 375. That is inclusive of the blue background, which we consider part of the sign, but I think you have it here, I'm not seeing it real quick, what it would be just if you did the rectangle around the letters.
So the rectangle around the letters. The rectangle around the letters is 121.5 square feet. Yeah, my calculator. That's for one of the signs on the east and west elevation.
Yeah, the total would be 499.
Yeah. And that's just for
And that was
letters.
was that of the original 607?
That is what he originally requested. The original request that was written for the Plan Commission included the blue vinyl around the top, just because it's technically part of the sign. When the Plan Commission discussed it, they felt like they were okay with those and did not need to do a variation for that.
So is it fair to say the Plan Commission or zoning board, whichever group it was,
Yes, sorry.
same people, they didn't consider the blue background part of the sign. But even if you just use the letters alone, the request is for essentially 500 square feet.
Correct.
And our ordinance allows 213.
Correct.
And the Plan Commission said 375.
Correct.
Any basis for that?
So the basis for that was based on what was proposed for Jewel at the time of the meeting. Shortly before the meeting, I was requested to find those numbers. I found a request for what was proposed for Jewel, and it was slightly off from what actually was proposed. The numbers that were proposed for Jewel that were approved was higher than what the Plan Commission based their recommendation on, actually. So that's where they took their number from, was that Jewel was approved 175% increased.
Yeah, I can understand the Jewel because it's set back so much further from the road. And then how are we treating the splash?
That would be included as part of their sign square footage in that 375, whatever you guys decide to give him is going to be part of. That'll take it away from that.
Could you tell from the records, was the Jewel variance, if you will, was that part of the negotiated PUD or was that separate?
The Jewel variance was part of their PUD.
So that was not a standalone request, it was part of the whole package.
Yeah. And their actual numbers was 541 square feet is what Jewel was granted in the PUD. And their standards, they should have been allowed 270 is what the building would have allowed for.
Are you considering just the front of that building, or are you considering?
Just the front.
Okay, because now we're talking here, the cumulative 4 sides to the Jewel's 1 side.
Correct.
So if you were to take the 4 sides of the Jewel, or the 2 sides, front and back, and then the side.
3 sides.
3 sides, yeah, so it'd be,
Or probably.
they wouldn't have, they might have been in compliance. If we were to say that you can shift it from one area to another, which our ordinance doesn't allow either. One of the things that the saw on the findings of fact was economic reasons. So that was one of the concerns I had, but I quite frankly would rather see them do something with the sign out on 147 if that's what they're trying to capture is that 147 traffic rather than using the variance on this. That
Give a variance for a bigger road now.
possibly, I mean, if that would work. I hate to see the precedents we're setting out. You know what I'm saying? But I also, I want to see the guys succeed. I mean, it's not that I don't want to. I acknowledge what he's trying to accomplish, and I think, I don't blame you for asking. I don't like the idea of shifting, accumulating the sizes and saying, you put them wherever you want.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So I was under the impression that you guys didn't want signs on Wheeler Road. That's why you take that square footage and put it. Jim brought up last week that he didn't think we should have a sign on Wheeler Road. He was Jim and the gentleman over there. So we moved them off Wheeler Road because the people behind the property wouldn't want to see my signage.
You're on the west side.
The west side. Yes. So we moved the allowed square footage to the other three sides. Instead, Superior Car Wash had signage on, I believe, 2 of the 4 sides. We had Superior Car Wash. We're out proposing touchless laser washing. You have to remember, I sell one thing. I don't have self-serve bays or friction or hand wash or detailing. I sell one thing. That's a touchless laser washing. So it's imperative everybody knows what I am from the road. Because if they come in and it's not what they wanted, they get upset. I want them to know that we're touchless. That's our thing. Because the title's going to come within a year or 2. Somewhere very close to me. And it's going to be very important I have these signs that are running out of town. Because they're going to take over the town when they come with the tunnel, like they had in Yorkville. And it's going to happen because that's what these car wash investors do. They watch small guys like me do well, and then they'll go right across the street or down the street, very close, and open a tunnel and give the membership for $30, and then SOL. That's why these signs are important. And I think I will know best where the signs are important. I'm in the business at 5 locations. Touchless needs, they need to know about touchless. And they're very tasteful signs. It's not like they're just yellow block letters that I have. I sent you an email of the Huntley location.
Yeah, we got
so they can see how they look. They're not out there. And I have a store there that's big. We're closer to 47 than this. And I sell one thing. That's why I'm asking for it.
Why can't you do this on the sign out on 147? On the monument sign.
Well, because I bought a building for $300,000 and I want to use 3 or 4 sides I bought for signage to help my people to come. That's why. And I shrunk it down because of the recommendation of last week. I shrunk down the signage actually.
So for confirmation, the zoning board approved a variation to allow 175% of the total permitted wall signage.
Yeah, and you support and if I read this correctly, there's no restriction. I understand what you're saying you can do, but I believe it's the way it's presented. You can put it all on one side if you wanted to. I know you don't want to, but
Yeah, I want to use all 3 sides of the property. That's why I bought it. Because I know you have strict zoning or ordinance for signage, and I understand why, but you understand I sell one thing. Well, I got one thing. And if I had memberships for $30 a month, I wouldn't care that people would be lining up for my membership. I can't give them memberships because I'm touchless. I need a chemical reaction to clean your car. I can't just rub it a million times to get it clean. Everybody's happy. I need to put the product on, so I can't slash my price to $50 a month and get unlimited car washes for $30 a month for $50 and have to put on the good chemical for possible. size of it is the same size as what I'm proposing, and their building was half the size. I'm expanding by almost double. So take that into account. Their old sign, you look it up on the internet, Superior Car Wash, and they had that brown corrugated steel behind like my blue is. It's the same thing.
I know it's hard to get a sense for me anyway, what you all are talking about. I feel like I'm trying to hang in there, but I went on, while you all were discussing, I was just on the King County, on their webpage, and I pulled up your parcel, and it looks like to me, your parcel, with the exception of right-of-way, IDOT right-of-way, your parcel goes right up to 47 for the most part. So I was curious if you were going to be blocked in the front, but you're not. So where Jamie talks about a monument sign, that's your best avenue to get signage close to 47 because of the location of the building. When I look, and I'm not an expert at this, but when I look at the map and I look at the parcel that is on the market right now on the corner of Wheeler and 47, one parcel, it is active on the market. I would be more concerned for you that you're going to get blocked with visibility from traffic going north because of a building going there, that I would want to put a monument sign closer to 47 so someone saw it. I would need the village board to make a decision to allow large signage that potentially wouldn't matter when that parcel on the corner is developed, but would really benefit the business if he had a sign closer to 47.
I understand what you're saying, but what happens between now and then? A business is most fragile in the beginning, when it's starting. If someone blocks me 10 years from now and makes my sign obsolete that I put up now, that just happens, but I've established a business in the meantime. If all I can put as a monument sign up, it's going to stunt my growth completely. I know because I've been in business for 20 years. I opened a restaurant on Peace Road in Sycamore called Exclusive Cafe. I was 21 years old. I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't put great signage up. And now, looking back in hindsight, opening up 4 more restaurants and 5 car washes with the correct signage and cities allowing me to have variances, I see what it's done for my business and the neighbors and the area moving forward. That's why I'm asking for it.
Where this may become obsolete to you, it creates a precedence that we have to deal with.
Correct, we created that with Jewel Development. We went through this last week.
It's based in, it was within the PUD, that's a different thing than coming up as an individual variance sign.
I'm a man in an island out there on 47. There's nothing around me. I need all 3 sides. I don't see how anybody can't see that. Looking at that building, how will we look when it's done with my other location in Huntley? I mean, the whole thing jives well. Doesn't look like it's sign heavy. If you ask me, the back looks cheap on Wheeler Road without a sign. I'm just gonna have to get a blue stripe.
All right, so Danny, I got a question real quick. So the recommendation of the 375, what's that reduce this sign down to then? That's a recommendation. So this here, these pictures of the Huntley is at the 100% of what you wanted to ask for, right? So if that 375 or whatever that number was from the recommendation of the planning board, what are we talking about size-wise? Is that being, is he going to have to get rid of? Yeah, is he getting rid of any? Are the letters just going to be smaller? Are they removing the banner?
They left it open for him, so he's going to keep the blue banner because they've taken that out of the equation. They're focusing just on the letters and the square logo. So he can disperse that 375 however he wants. If he wants to do really small signage letters on one side and have them bigger on the other sides, he can do that.
Okay.
They did put a limit to that no letters may exceed 36 inches.
Okay.
We shrunk.
What was the height of the letters proposed?
42, I believe.
36 from 40.
Square footage.
Now it's 33 on this drawing.
This drawing is 33?
No, the one up Sugar Grove is 33.
What is this picture?
That is, I want to say 28. But that building is 22 feet away from Route 47. 22 feet.
So, I mean, if I'm looking at the report and understanding, if there aren't letters on the west side, which sounds like that was part of the recommendation, the 375 square feet is what he's asking for. It's no reduction of the, because if you're talking about, you know, essentially 128 on the east or 128 on the north and south and 121 on the east, you're right at plus or minus probably 10 square feet or 375. So by eliminating the west side, there's no reduction in the size area. The only change is the size of the letters.
The other thing is, when he was proposing the original proposal, he did not factor in his sport logo that he wants to add. So that is going to add into taking away some of that square footage he has.
And the size is also based on each facade, not cumulative.
Well, I thought the way it was proposed was cumulative.
Well, that's what was proposed.
Right, that was the recommendation of the ZBA. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. I'm just trying to clarify.
How big would the signage be if it were to comply with the ordinance?
If it were to comply with the ordinance, he would be allowed to have
214.
214.
And how big is that letter-wise?
Take my letters down, right, 24 inches. Which are smaller than Huntley's, and Huntley is, I know it's not Huntley, it's sugar growth, I totally get it, I respect that. But if you look at the building, how closer it is to the road, and you look at this one, how far it is away from the road, and no neighbors next to me bringing traffic, it's me.
But you also have no neighbors blocking the road, so, you know, the fact that you're.
That's why I think there are signs there.
Well, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that if you have nobody blocking you, then what's the difference how far back you are?
Why would you not want me to succeed?
I'm not saying I don't want you to succeed.
That's what you're doing, you're letting me have a sign, that's, I see.
It's not.
That's exactly what it is.
What we lay down for variance as precedent, and then
Well, I
so we have
understand.
to be careful in what we do, because then everyone will want the same thing, well, you did it for him, you did it for
The
him.
ordinance reads
So-
1 square foot, 1 linear foot of building equals 1 square foot of signage.
A lot of businesses in our town have abided by the ordinance as it's written, so.
I understand that's that what variance is for, is to get permission to do something different because you're a different business and when all businesses are not the same.
Correct. Usually the variances, though, that are granted, you're looking at small variances and, little businesses as an economic difference or a hardship because of, situation. So I'm just.
I understand the whole precedent thing we talked about last week, that's why we went from 600 square feet down to what Jewel allowed. Because, and my argument was, you set precedent with Jewel, why can't you go a little higher with mine? And I got shot down. So we all agreed that I thought that was a fair thing. I backed down, made my letters smaller, took it off the Wheeler side, the whole sign. Now it's going to be just blue. I don't know how that's going to look, but if they're pulling in, they're already there. At that point, I don't think bringing signs are going to kill me. But the 3 sides on 47 being the only building out there, no one around us.
I lived here for like about a year before I even realized that Superwash was tucked back there. I mean, I understand signage is important. I do get that. I mean, I passed by that place for a solid year and never realized that was even there. And when I did see it, I thought it was closed. So I get it. However, it was also brown and drab and tucked away. This is new. I know there's already talk in the community about what was going on there. The car wash, but you're doing the blue background with the white or the yellow lettering, right? Are these lighted? Okay, lighted.
Just the
so,
yellow part.
Just the what part?
Just the yellow part's lighted. The blue
Lighted,
part's
right. So I personally think that no matter what size it is, just the fact that it's new, Sugar Grove has nothing like this laser wash. So I think it's going to bring in itself its own people. So I think the variation that was recommended by the Plan Commission is well, is a good size. I know I'm going to go with what the plan commission has decided, give him the variation of the variation. So that's my my 2 cents on it. So
I encourage you guys to go at home and look for yourself. I'm not doing something that's going to look bad on the state. That's not what I want. I want to bring neighbors, but I sell one thing. If I had 5, 6 things I was selling, great. I use 47 side. If I had neighbors bringing me people right next door, fine. But now I'm all by myself out there looking. There's a reason why Sandy closed. And when her husband got sick, she couldn't keep it up. She didn't have any signs. I would really appreciate this variance. I think it's essential to the area, not just me. I want to make money. I stand up here and tell you I don't want to make money. But I think it's important to the whole area out there. It's kind of lonely.
So these pictures, these letters are, you said 24 inches?
I want to say no, the Premier is smaller than the touchless skin number. You see how the touchless side is bigger? The Premier had to be smaller because just the way the building laid out on the door.
Because of the height.
Because of the height of the building. See how the garage doors are mounted on the outside of the building there?
How tall are those letters?
Those are, I want to say, 28.
And how tall are the planning
33.
commission recommend?
It said nothing larger than 36 inches.
So we went 33 to get that squirt in there. Because we have a squirt on 47 side. We want to match it up to the same road. People are going to see it here, they're going to see it there. Hopefully they choose to watch it here in instead of, I don't know.
So this to me is, what's tasteful? Another 8 inches of that? I don't know.
5 inches. 33 is the one I'm proposing now, shrunken down.
I thought it said 36.
It was 36 last week, but we went down to 33.
He passed out those packets that came. He has revised his signs that he wants to do, and that's what he's referring to, is that he's proposing 33 now, but the recommendation.
36 to 33, but then including this.
That's how I got that squirt.
That's
Oh, so in order to accommodate that, you had to reduce the letter size.
And then they didn't like the letter size at 36, so I figured pick my battles. And I had squirt. Squirt looks good at night. It's going to bring the place to 20%. It really is. That building.
and I think break up the brick wall.
It's only going to look exactly how it looked, except double the size. If I don't put these signs on. It's going to be the exact same building, except deeper. 44 instead of 28.
And the size of the letters that were on there previously, you said were
I want to say they were 36.
36, so smaller than what was there before, with updated
We're
popping
basically
colors.
replacing the corrugated brown steel with the blue aluminum band. Powder coated, it won't fade for 20 years.
So 33 inches and the squirt fit with what the plan commission recommended.
Yes, I have a breakdown of the email chain for banner.
I'm fine with that.
So the touchless laser wash, there's 2 sets. They're 100 square feet each at 33 inches. The Premier car wash is 1 set, and it's 102 square feet. The squirt is 50 square feet, I believe. 50.
Okay, so the request now is a 33-inch letter max.
3 inches less than what the planning commission said max of.
But the overall total is the same as what that.
Could you repeat what you said a little slower and do my east, west, north, south for me?
So the touchless laser wash sign, there's one on the north side and one on the south side. And each one of those is 108 square feet.
And those, the letter height on those?
33 inches.
Okay.
By 470 inches total width.
Okay. And then the east?
The east side will be Premier Car Wash, and it will be 102 square feet.
And that's also 33-inch letters?
Correct.
And that has the square, I think it was 50 square feet?
The square, I believe, is 50. So the remaining, whatever's left, if you add those up, that's how big it will be the square.
And then, understanding that you think there should be some signage on the west, are you okay with not having where it is just a blue stripe on the west?
Yeah, in order to have my square on 47, yeah.
Okay.
What about adding a square on the west side?
Give me all signs my middle name. That's why I added that last picture on that packet. just Premier. I think it'll look better with Premier on the back. By the back there. And when people exit the car wash and they get out and look at their car, by where the vacuums are gonna be, they're gonna take a picture, put it on their social media, and you're right, there's not gonna be a sign there because the one guy that's exiting his house back there doesn't like a sign there, doesn't make any sense. Sorry. A lot of people back there are gonna love the place, talk great about it, put it on social media, the word's gonna spread, and then you're getting another car wash over here in 2 years. I'll take the Jeep guys. I know you will, all the Jeep guys.
Are those lights lit up, just during business hours or
24/7.
It's open 24/7?
Yes.
Can I just have clarification? The blue banner, that stays, correct?
Car wash now open?
No, that's an architectural, it's defined as an architectural feature, President Conan.
Which blue banner do you mean?
The blue base behind the touchless laser wash.
Yes, that would go entirely around the building, and the ZBA is not considering that part of the sign.
Okay, that's fine. And the only other thing I want to say to staff, and it maybe would have been easier, is sometimes when you look at our ordinance and you look at the request, if you can digitally put on what our code would allow, so that we could visually see, well, that's really small. Maybe that would, turn our tide to say what we currently are asking is unrealistic, and that this is realistic. But it's hard to say right now, knowing, how large this is, what our code will really allow. It'd be nice to know what that is.
Matt, you're okay with 3 max?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the way he put it in this last packet here matches what the.
Actually, a little smaller.
Right. Yeah, I'm good with the variation that they've recommended.
I am as well.
Same.
I am with a 33-inch max.
The attorney's got to throw something.
I'd love to see a splash on that side, but honestly, I think it looks pretty good with just the blue band on it.
I was going to ask you guys for more, but I was still trying to give you this, so I shut my mouth. I would like to put Premier in the back and a support for my social media, because when they pull out with a clean car and stop and vacuum it, they're good at hashtag Team Touchless. They're good.
I'm okay without a Premier card, but
I was going to say, if I did my math right, without the splash on the back, I believe he's at 318 inches on the other 3 sides. I did it right.
as opposed to 270.
Or no, actually, I did do that right. He's already at 368 because I forgot the sort on the other part. Because you had 102 and then 108 twice, and then a 50-foot score.
Okay, he reduced it from 30 to 40. The score would give him another number.
I was at Bender Up.
Maybe we.
3 days ago, and we just, whatever was left, we just made the score that day. So it's 375.
Yeah, you're right there with nothing on the west side.
Could I come back and ask for another variance after everybody sees that it's tasteful and it looks good and a sign of Wheeler wouldn't be an issue?
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
I think once you see it done, you're not going to have this opinion about it's too much signage. I really don't. It's going to be a big building.
The other thing I just want to point out, it is on the agenda for discussion tonight. The board cannot vote on it. So we're certainly looking for a consensus to prepare the documentation for the next meeting. But, I mean, we could prepare it kind of as we're talking about now. And if the board at the next meeting, if you brought in some more exhibit or something that convinced them to go above this word or something on the west side.
Does he have the brown sign also? Or he's grandfathered into that one?
The brown
So I think
Not allowed to do with lights. You need a variance for the lights.
you guys are killing Jen, I can see it. Yeah, so if I'm understanding, is staff writing this up to have the 375 square foot total spread over 3 sides with a 33-inch maximum letter height? Is that essentially what we're talking about, which I believe is what you showed us tonight?
Yes.
And that would be nothing on the west side.
Yeah. I'm personally open to it. I mean, just throwing it out there. I mean, just if it helps. I don't see.
Give me another 100, I'll put it for me or
So I'm just, I personally, I mean, if you got it on 3 sides and a 4th is blank, why not do something on that side too, to what you are requesting? Because you think it would, your social media, things like that.
Because they're clean on that side. They come in, dirty, there's pictures of the dirty car in the back. Looks better.
And my only question, and I'm just, I would have to go out there and visually stand, and I'm not arguing your 33-inch, 36-inch, 30-inch. What is, I mean, a person just with normal vision, I don't know, 24 versus 30 versus 33.
Yeah, just because the corner's so far away from that building.
Yeah.
The corner of Wheeler and 47, Conley's 28-inch letters, but literally, that building can only be a car wash. If you knock it down, you can't rebuild because you're too close to the road. That's how close to the road it is. Just enough for a car to exit and leave. So 28-inch letters, plenty. But out here, you're talking about what? A football field between my south side and the corner of the intersection? I think the 5 inches is justified for that reason. 3 foot from the corner. Imagine you're being at your stop at the red light going north. That's pretty far. What do you think?
Well, I think, I'll just repeat, you're not voting tonight, so I think it's just, I think we have a direction to what to prepare, whether you approve it or not next meeting, or make changes, you certainly can. But
You want to bring something that has that as an option?
Just all 4 sides, but maybe something visual to the smaller. I mean, I don't know how easy that is to.
I can go there and, yeah, whip that up. I can either shrink the letter 2 more inches.
I don't want to keep crazy.
No, I want as much signage as I can get because I sell one thing. And I want it to look like Huntley because I think people drive on 47 all the way to Huntley from here. And it's great brand recognition. And I'm telling you, that tunnel's going to come. And that's when we need the most.
Okay, do you have enough to move forward? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you guys have enough of a consensus on the board?
I think so. I'm seeing enough consensus to prepare for next meeting. What the vote will be, we'll find out.
Okay. And while you prepare it for next week, is it possible to have staff give an example of what the code currently allows so we can see the difference between what the request is and what our code allows?
I think the applicant can do that, because he's got the software already known for that.
Yeah, the Vanguard signs this then. So,
Jen, they're saying the applicant said he can have his sign guy prepare that to show you what it would be
What?
both ways.
What?
Yes.
Thank you.
Should we give you a big sign to show you what it can't be more than?
Honestly, I hope to never do this again. It's not pleasurable. I can see why we've had other board members just disconnect over so much time.
He's not
So.
that bad of a guy, come on.
Huntley asked for 4 guys. They have a really fine organization.
Okay, so we're bringing this back, bringing it back under general business in 2 weeks? Okay, thank you.
As he was saying, Transformers from comment, or anything else we were all the time, so I don't know what's happening with that. And there's a lot of things up in the air right now with line shaping issues. That's what, I don't put a date on it, you know. I'm hoping October, definitely before it snows. That's the goal. They always call that because the pits, you know, pits are there. They run underground work. That's
Okay. I hear discussion, but I'm ready to move on if you all are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Up next, we have liquor control ordinance revision. Allison?
Okay, so after several amendments to the liquor control ordinance over the last year, staff, which included Brent, Chief, and myself, reviewed our liquor license ordinance, and we really were focused on making sure that the ordinance, as we would draft it, would be as accommodating as possible for new businesses and new uses, so we didn't have to have the frequent updates. Of course, while still maintaining what the village wants to, regulate. And also to provide consistency across businesses. We had changed the fees for restaurant, tavern, all the four. So we wanted to make it consistent. Currently we have, like I mentioned, restaurant, we have restaurant, tavern. They have different hours. They have different requirements for their menus, how big the pictures can be. It was just difficult to understand. It doesn't make it super easy for the police officers to enforce because it's a little nutty. So we wanted to really just streamline it and make it as concise and coherent as we could. So we worked a few things, but we came up with it. You basically have an on-premise license and you have an off-premise license. But you can have a few different scenarios. So we wanted to have on-premise for all ages. So your restaurant, anything where you can have kids, kind of your Sugar Grove Cafe, your Fireside, basically the restaurants that we currently have. On-premise 21 plus. So this could be sort of a nightclub. We don't have any currently, but we wanted to make sure that we accommodated that. The on-premise pour license, so this would replace the gas station convenience store license that we currently have, and this would be the separate, the on-premise pour. And then you have off-premise, so your Village Liquors, your Jewel, your Aldi and Walgreens, and then of course we wanted to have government so that we could have things here or in other governmental properties on and off premises.
So like if we had food trucks out there, they could have the beer.
Yes.
The guy wanted to have a beer tent or something.
Correct.
Okay.
So that license would be for government premises. We recognize that not everyone needs an annual license, that there's a temporary license, but some people might need multiple temporary licenses. So we thought that you could do a temporary license would be 30 days or less, and you can spread those days across the year however you would like to. So if you were a food truck who was going to go to Walnut Woods, which is having a lot of food truck events, you would get your temporary license, and you would have 30 days that you could then go and sell your wares. And then again, we wanted to, each specific classification we wanted to get rid of, as you can see in the documents that are currently there with the clerk code. It has, the restaurant and then all these things, and we wanted to get rid of that and streamline it so that we have general regulations that we list out under number 3. I'm not going to go through them all, but it's basically your hours, defines on your BYOB, because that's some things that we have discussed, delivery. We also clearly want to state that everybody still has to have your BASSET training for servers, and then you have to follow state statute. So if maybe we haven't covered something here, you're not going to be allowed to do it because your state liquor license is going to restrict you. So while ours may be a little more open, that's still going to be covered under the state statute. And then our tasting, so Jewel or Aldi or whoever wants to do a tasting would still be able to do that. And then we really wanted to streamline the fee structure, so we had suggested $1,500 for the annual on or off-premise licenses, and then $750 for temporary licenses. And this came out to be almost as much as what we currently have. So we currently have just under 19,000, and this was just at 18,000 that we would bring in, given our current numbers for for these license classifications. So that's kind of an overview, and we are happy to answer questions, concerns. Mr. Jones.
Great job. I think you guys, I read this thing top to bottom. I think the way that it's streamlined, I think is going to really clean up a lot for businesses coming in. Communication to those businesses, a lot easier for the staff to maintain and understand, easier for the police to enforce. A bit of an addendum on one of your comments. Yes, the top line revenue is marginally changing. It's going up for some and down for others. So there will be some of the businesses that might have an added hardship for whatever it's worth. I think it's nominal based on what's been put together here. I think it's done well. I think it's done smartly. I think it's done intelligently. I think it's easy to understand. Thank you. That's my statement. No questions.
And I also want to recognize Laura's input into it too. So
Thank you.
sorry.
Yeah, that was a general thank you to anyone who helped.
Can I ask just a quick question? And I should know the answer to this, but I don't. So item D, BYOB is prohibited without a liquor license. How is the corn boil, not the corn boil, the Groove in the Grove operating?
I think there's a question that we need to do more research on as to whether libraries have specific liquor, in the state liquor code, the libraries and many other agencies have a exclusion or a specific part for them. When we looked at it right now, which certainly wasn't our main focus, we do have some question as to whether BYOB is actually allowed outdoors at the library. That is something we would need to look further at. But I tend to think right now that the way they're operating probably doesn't comply, but we need to review that further.
Okay, so this item D, though, if they are in compliance, are they not in compliance with the Village of Sugar Grove once we have item D in there?
I'm not sure I understood, sorry.
They would have to get a liquor license.
Yeah, they would, we would, presumably if they wanted to continue that, they would get a liquor license under the government category that would have no fee.
Okay. Okay, that was my question. It seems less complicated.
Trustee Bonnie has some questions.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so the BYOB with a liquor license means that a business who has a liquor license can then have a BYOB?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay, so if a liquor license is a bar, has a BYOB, and they decide that they want a BYOB for a Friday night, you're allowing residents or customers to bring their own alcohol into a restaurant or bar?
Yes.
Bad idea. I disagree with that. I think that's we need to control the alcohol that comes in. There are serving limits that need to be adhered to. With over serving, how do you watch and if you're allowing people to bring in with a BYOB license or a license and not holding them accountable to the BYOB, I see there's a lot of issues with that.
There's a couple ways of setting that up, and even though you bring it in, doesn't mean it's not served by staff. So it's just like if you bring your own wine, it's corked, and then you leave with it. I'm sorry, you drink it or you leave part of it you don't consume it all. They can cork it for you and take it out. So
is that in the license that has to be poured?
Well, this is just general discussion, but this internal discussions we've talked about different ways because we're still struggling with. We looked at other communities, how they're handling the BYOB. It is, it's all over the board, and you're not seeing. I think Oak Park was one of them where they permitted just recently BYOB for a cafe, but their staff members are serving the alcohol that is brought in.
But that's
So
the
they
problem,
still
is
have
that
to
its
be
own
tested.
BYOB license, or is that a license that falls underneath their?
Well, it might be a subcategory of one of the on-premises or off-premises yet, so those are still those discussions that we're looking at. I think we're just keeping this at a high level right now, but great point. Those are still, they have to be VAST certified. So just like if it was the owner of the business that was serving the alcohol, they still have the responsibility to make sure they're not being overserved, even though they're bringing in their own alcohol. So,
Yeah.
who's purchasing?
If that was if that's going to be in the ordinance, that if they bring their own, it must be served. But we are going to be losing some tax revenue from having people bring their.
And
minimal, maybe.
I
at
don't see
most,
too many
but-
businesses doing that category.
Yeah,
For that purposes, that's where their money maker is. It's on the alcohol. So, but you might have a specialty deli shop or something else that might apply for a liquor license, but they don't want to have to go through all the other regulations of making sure that from the state code, they got to follow all the state code that's established, and it's really, that's why I think we're kind of blurred lines is what the state is allowing for BYOB. We have to do some more, research on this.
Yeah, if I could just add, we took an approach of trying to be, if you will, as lenient as we can, and and that's part of the reason we wanted to check in with the board now to make sure we were heading in the right direction, because we certainly could be very detailed, very strict in an effort to kind of prevent as many possible problems that might be out there. We approached this with the at least certainly at this point in time, we don't believe it's a community that typically has those kind of problems. And on this one in particular, we talked about, two approaches. If you're going to have BYOB, we've seen some places where it's, yes, you have to turn it over to the establishment and they have to serve it. Other places, other communities, you can bring it in and serve yourself. And so that's something going forward we would want direction on. But we approached it kind of, let's be, for lack of better, is loose. I don't mean that in a negative sense, but if a business wants to allow that, could there be problems? Sure. There's a lot of things, quite frankly, we changed here. We expanded the hours of operation, made it uniform. There's different things we did that we don't know that this is in the long run going to be the final product. There may be problems that are recurring that we say we have to change it. The other part of that is if there's problems, we talked about. And I can't remember if we talked about it here, but I think we had some discussion about the liquor commission and beefing up, if you will, that ability to suspend or yank licenses. And I think that in our conversations, we were going to make that portion of it tougher than it currently is, where the liquor commissioner or commission would have the authority to do that quicker, and stronger than we currently have. So so right now, really we needed to check in because kind of our whole approach, we haven't seen anything like this anywhere. What we typically see in all our reviews is what we had before, something that appears to have evolved over decades. And so it truly is a different model and concept that we wanted to make sure we were on the right track. And I think that there is a good point, and we did not repeat it all here. We don't want to in our ordinance and state regulations. I can't speak to what they are on BYOB sitting here, but everybody has to still comply with all state regulations.
Okay, well, I'm against the BYOB. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea to incorporate it with a basic license. The hours of operation from 6 to 2, that's going to be clear across the board. Just keep in mind, your village is open later than other villages. At that witching hour, you now have possibility of people driving into town from other bars because your area is still open for an additional hour. Keep that in mind. Also not a big fan of that either. And the no food, no menu requirement, does that mean that the bars no longer have to sell food or have menus?
For the local license.
For local license. I'm not a big fan of that either. It's pretty much a Class A tavern license at that point if you're not requiring anybody to have any food while they're eating or while they're drinking. The off-premises allows for 24/7, so that will then allow every liquor store off-premises in town to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure what our business, do we have a business restriction on that? If it would allow them, if they are open 24 hours a day to sell it, so I don't know if do we have restrictions on how long people can be open?
You're correct, it's proposed, the gas station that sells alcohol would sell it 24/7 as we presented.
Okay, I'm also not a big fan of that, and this is a discussion, so.
Yeah, no, this is the feedback.
I feel like I'm kind of getting a little bit of smiles over here. I just want to give you my discussion on it, and we'll go from there. I do appreciate the hard work.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
So just some things after that. I do like the fee structure. I think that's a good idea to get it all in order. I always thought it was kind of wonky having those fees all over the place anyway. We've been through that discussion many a times and trying to get that all figured out. So as it stands, I have some issues with this. I like the way it's being condensed, but I still do think we should have some restrictions under each one of those licenses, just for us to not only protect ourselves as a village, but to protect the residents here too. And we do have to take that in mind. I know it's easier for the village, for staff to have this, but we have to really, our job here is to do what's right for the residents. And some of these issues I think are community caretaking type issues where we have some issues in the community, and I'm not a big fan of that. So.
But I don't think anything that you're bringing up couldn't be addressed in some of the details.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I think that what I'm hearing right now, certainly I know other people probably have questions or concerns, is the concept seems to be okay, and to the degree you're comfortable tonight, if 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., and one of the things we try to eliminate is having different hours, which we currently have depending upon your classification of license. That didn't really make sense to us. So if it's, if it's 8 a.m. to midnight, I don't know if it matters, but to us, it's whatever you guys want. So we're certainly just let us know. I think our main thing was we felt or believed that it shouldn't be different depending upon if you're I don't know what these are, on a restaurant, on this, on that. Like, no, if you can go there and get a drink, you can go there and get a drink. And then a couple of the other things you mentioned on the food one in particular, we struggled with that because we look at the practical side of it, and again, maybe there's answers, but I think our current code refers to full menu. What is that? Partial menu. What is that? Food's available, nobody has to eat it, and we looked at our thing and said, I think under our current code and most typical ones, I've got 3 types of bar pizzas. I have a full menu. And so we felt realistically, it didn't seem to us to require food. We didn't really know, it didn't seem like something was practical. What do we do with that? Again, there may be an answer to what you're looking for that does fit, but from our viewpoint, at least right now, we didn't see that as an issue. BYOB, again, my only question would be, would you propose no BYOB or an additional license that allows it, or some, or?
Well, I would like to probably research it a little bit more.
Sure.
As it stands, including it under just a basic license where anybody who has a liquor license now can have BYOB on their premises, I think I'm not okay with that. So to find a solution to that, I'm going to start research for it. Yeah. But as that stands, that was an issue I had with this as it sits in front of me today.
And this is again going to be something where we determine how many are available.
Correct.
By ordinance.
Yes.
Yes. I'm Matt, everything you brought up, I think is good.
Can you mentioned enforcement being increased a little bit, flexibility with being able to pull license or penalize somebody who violates this. Is that going to be part of this at all, or is that something?
Yeah, well, we're taking a look at the entire ordinance, and we know this is not complete. So I am repeating myself, but we thought, we got to check in before we go any further on this. But yeah, the idea is that when we bring back the ordinance, and Laura's mentioned that there are some basic other references that aren't in the board report that we want in there that we would include. But yeah, we're going to take a look at that. The Liquor Commission language in ours to make sure it's, you know, as solid as we think that you would want it to be. So I think, you know, we certainly would like to hear more, but I think what I'm hearing tonight is we can kind of take this to the next step, which I'm thinking, I'll confer with Allison and Chief afterward, would be, I'm thinking we're probably ready to start coming up with a draft ordinance to bring back to you again for more discussion, certainly before any approval. Thank you.
The only other question I had, I didn't see anything on here. At one time we talked about, like I see open range. At one time we talked about open range and Bliss Creek, and like they were separate liquor licenses, right? Does this, with open range being $600 more expensive, is it one license for property?
Yeah, this is a different concept too that I probably should extrapolate on. Is the way we're proposing it is the premises would be defined with your application, and in a case such as the golf course, we don't have a golf course license. If it's the same, if open range is serving in the building and on the golf course, we would envision they would come in and say, our premises include the building, the grounds, the whatever it includes.
The cart, because that was supposed
Yeah,
to be a fee as
well,
well.
it would be I don't think we charged the fee, I think that was there, but, you know, same type of thing, if somebody comes in and, you know, if they have a patio area, because there was some funky language in ours that referred to premises as buildings and partial buildings, and we're like, wait a minute, how does that work? So, and I believe, and I don't know if it was in this report or not, but we also talked about, really it would be I think we talked about on a case-by-case basis if fencing was required. So I think, again, practically speaking, you know, if you're serving at a golf course, probably not going to fence the whole thing, but we may say, okay, for this particular one, your premises with your outdoor patio, we do want a barrier around that. So
If it backs up to the elementary school.
well, but yeah, so it is a different concept of premises, not a, you know, indoor outdoor. It's kind of you are what you are. You have to define it up front.
We're gonna have to have some language in there that gives them legal authority to do it. You know, otherwise, somebody's just gonna come in and say, okay, my area is the village of Sugar Grove.
Well, yeah, no, that would be part of their application. So it would be, the idea would be to define, when they come in, one of the requirements is going to be, what are your premises? And that would be part of the approval process. So they couldn't.
And currently with your application, you have to show that you own the property or that you lease it. So someone can say, I own Sugar Grove here. I mean, they can try, but yeah.
You know, 'cause I don't know what the relationship is with, you know, open range with the entire golf course, or just a restaurant. You know, that might go into other areas too. You got somebody coming in, you know, who hopefully will put in a restaurant with a seating area next to it, a jewel, and, you know, so what's encompassed, what's not.
Correct me if I get off track, the one of you please, but I believe one other change proposed is the elimination of reduced fee not-for-profit licenses, that the only reduced or waived fee is for governmental operations, but if you're not-for-profit, pay a fee just like anybody else. The temporary licenses as proposed are half the cost of a regular, but, you know, again, certainly up to you, but that's the way we're.
That was the one that I had circled, because I know the American Legion will come in, guaranteed, with theirs doubling. But we had that discussion.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I don't.
Certainly not gonna put them out of business like a sign would.
Look at the bear.
Again, I know when Allison mentioned it, but again, you know, I think one of the other changes, I don't know how much it took effect in practice, was the elimination of the volume restrictions. And our current ordinance, depending upon which license, you know, can serve by carafe, can serve in a picture up to so many ounces, can serve by this, can serve by that. We're proposing eliminating that and serve it however you serve it.
Crunchies and these Lansing serves 2.5-gallon buckets.
And that was also because it limited the size of the pitcher. It didn't limit how many pitchers could come to your table at once. So we felt like that was a little, like, you're not really stopping anything. We'll just have 10 pitchers instead of more.
But I think for the most part, those places then would have some sort of a restriction because they don't want to deal with that.
Right.
thank you. This is helpful. We'll do that.
Looks good.
Moving in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to staff report. Brent.
The two things I wanted to mention is that if you haven't signed up, I believe this Thursday is the Metro West Legislative Barbecue. And while the deadline is probably passed, I'm guessing if we told them tomorrow anybody else wanted to attend, they'd figure out a way to have you attend. That's up at Auburn Lions Club. I want to say 5:30, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And the other one I wanted to mention is that staff is taking advantage of the Food Truck Friday, having all the picnic tables and everything here Friday, so we're doing that cookout for lunch. So if any of you happen to be in town and want to come by about 11:30 or noon, there'll be plenty of food. You don't need to bring anything. Just feel free to stop by and have a hot dog or hamburger or something with us this Friday right here at Village Hall, unless it's bad weather, then we're going to Public Works. Right, Tony?
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Brent? Okay, I'm moving on. Walter.
The only thing I'll add, first of all, I apologize for the late arrival of my report, but I've got two things I'll add. We've had a couple of emergencies in the village over the weekend. We had another car versus building incident and minor damage, and nobody was hurt. And on Sunday we had a house fire on Meadows. The dwelling is red tagged. It's sustained a lot of damage, but the adjacent unit only sustained smoke damage. So that was good news there. Other than that, nothing new to add.
Question.
Thank you, Walter. Yes?
Walter, when are we going to see like different enforcement things? When are we going to start enforcing the special use of the storage, outdoor storage?
Well, actually, we are. He's been served notice that he's in violation, I'm not going to make any predictions, but it's conceivable that that matter will be coming to the village board.
I think 30-day notice, I believe that was given last week.
Yes.
Could you get that one, Jen?
I got it. Thank you. All right. Any additional questions for Walter? Okay. Hearing none. Tony?
Just mention that with our road program, the strike that impacts the quarries is impacting the road program. So parts of it are delayed. We're penciled in to have microsurfacing done next week in Meadow Ridge Villas, but obviously everything is dependent on materials and supplies for the program. That's it.
Thanks, Tony. Matt?
I don't have anything else to add.
What do you say?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Just with the construction season that was upon us in the state of Illinois, we see a lot of the state roadways are restricted or detoured. So typically this time of the year we see a lot of superloads or trucks that are trying to snake their way through the state and utilizing local roads, and that's what happened last week. We had almost 149 foot superload truck go through that was 245,000 pounds. It tore up some of the roadways, so we're still waiting on some expenses to get back to the company. I think the fine, the initial overweight, oversized fine for that's going to be about $50,000 because they did not acquire a permit. We saw it go into the state approved it last Tuesday. Tuesday night I got on the phone and called the permit office and told them we cannot utilize that road. Well, they still did, and thankfully we were able to to move up through the state, and they sent another requested for us now for a local road to use the same roadways. We denied it, and we also contacted the state to try to restrict that roadway so that the state doesn't route them from Prairie over to Gordon. And the reason being is the 15-foot height and is not going to make it underneath any of our bridges here in down Route 47. So we have to try to find another way. So 39 and other areas around the state are to snake through. It always seems to be they're going to try to go through local roads and not get caught. So that's one of the things. The other thing that is good news in 2 weeks, the 14 weeks for Juan Marino will be finishing up. He graduates on July 1st from Sylvia. So we're looking forward to it. So we've got a little bit of a week and a half left, and then I'll start the field training program. So
coffee and cake next meeting?
Yeah, we'll have at the next meeting on July 5th at 5 o'clock. Will be coffee and cake here at the boardroom. 5:30 will be the swearing in ceremony for him, and if you can make it, it would be great.
That's good news.
Yes.
Have you formulated a list? Do we have a list for laterals at all?
We just posted our advertisement on Friday, and I think we don't have any applications yet that have been turned in. It's due in on August 15th, and we're far exceeding the number of looks that we've had, visits to that site, our site off that page, than we have in the past 2 times that we generated it. So thank you for allowing us to help improve the starting salary. I think we're over 500 people that have looked at that site already. Lateral officers throughout the state that are already certified. We got 500 people to review Sugar Grove's page. So, like I said, it doesn't close until August 15th.
Thanks, Chief. Are there any questions for Pat?
Does that traffic normally indicate then that someone's looking at it and then they're going to get their paperwork and documentation together and then theoretically submit some, or is it just?
We'll probably see, we're hoping to get about 10% of the traffic. So if we got 500 people looking at it, we could get somewhere between 50 officers to apply. That would be great. Yeah. Right now the numbers are, the number of likes that, or I'm sorry, the looks that the views that we have is just phenomenal over the past week. It hasn't even been a week yet. I'm sorry, it's been up since Friday.
You're going to be busy meeting?
Yes. Last spring.
I hope so.
Yes, we hope so.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
I think I got all staff members, but I can only see the board, so if I skip you, please yell. But I think I got you all. Trustee Bonnie.
I've said enough. I'm good.
Is that enough?
I've had enough.
Thanks. I've heard enough. So it's very difficult this is my first time doing it like this, and it's been very difficult. So for the board members that have in the past, I know I mentioned it, we definitely have to work on this because I don't foresee this problem going away and people having to do it from home. But anyway, thank you for all your comments tonight, Matt. We'll see what comes with the liquor license, so thank you. The liquor, not the liquor license, I'm delirious from listening, but sorry. Anyway, moving on. Oh my gosh, Heidi, I'm sorry. Nothing? Okay, thank you. Sean?
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Trustee White?
I met with Michael Casa last week. Great meeting. I'm really excited about having him here. I think he's going to be good for the village. And I also wanted to thank Jim for his expertise in sharing it with us. we are lucky to have Patty willing to speak up about these things.
Thank you. I agree with those sentiments. So thank you to Jim as
Very
well.
happy to have Mr. Goodendorf here. I'd ask him to say a few words, but he doesn't have a tie on, so he couldn't say a few.
All right. Trustee Walter.
Nothing to report. I concur. Very good. And I also have a meeting with Mr. Casa this Friday morning. So.
Excellent. Any updates with the corn boil?
I did make it to a meeting last Thursday. I did ask for, they don't really do minutes. I asked for an update, didn't receive anything, but I've seen everything is pretty well populated and all the bands, everything's coming together. So they haven't had any issues or questions they brought up to me with regards to any village.
Okay.
Further support or questions.
It would be a good place to advertise your new business, right?
Certainly could be.
Jody here was in, and he was talking about they're still struggling to find volunteers, and they may not have the fireworks at this point.
They didn't need volunteers to light the fireworks.
No, they need volunteers for the event. And money for the fireworks.
Long pole. They need volunteers for what?
The event, checking
IDs.
IDs and other things for the event, and then they need funding for the fireworks.
What happened with their fundraiser?
I don't know.
They just had a big fundraiser over last week, right?
I didn't have one last week.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw on social media, it was limited to, I think, 100 tickets. I think it was, at least the ticket portion of it was like $10 went toward corn boil. And I don't know what they generated off of raffles.
There's some work I think that still needs to be done toward that effort. But thank you, Ryan. Trustee Shomack.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. There's a lot of news from the Park District. So general note, Karen, their director, is retiring. They've identified a backfill replacement, a gentleman by the name of Scott. I think he comes from Lyle. They did a review of the financial audit. I'm going to try to skip through some of the other stuff. Reappointed some annual appointments. There's some dialogue going on with respect to the Windstone Homeowners Association regarding a park survey, wanting more attention from the Park District, but the Park District doesn't own any of those parks, so there's a bit of a back and forth going on. One of the board commissioners was going to attend their HOA meeting. They're in the process of power washing, sanitizing, and adding mulch to several of the parks, so you guys should be seeing that around the village. I did provide them an update. Question came up regarding the town center committee and the printed material that was being done. Dawn didn't understand some of the things from a bigger perspective there, so I filled in the blanks. The National Multiple Sclerosis Society is running a national bike tour June 25th and 26th. It's called the Tour de Farms, and they are using the sports complex as a rest stop, so you'll be seeing a lot of cycle traffic coming through town that weekend. More information coming together regarding the master plan update. There was a lot of discussion with respect to the Rapidi Center roof. It appears that they've got some wear and tear going on the roof due to age. It's a flat roof. They don't have a lot of experience with it. My apologies, Tony. I sent them in your direction maybe for help as they are looking to maybe get some quotes. They don't have any network or contacts with people. So I was thinking maybe you or someone from within your department might be able to lend some assistance there. I've got more details on that, the specifics of it, the financial impacts there, if someone wanted to discuss that. That meeting, incidentally, was virtual. They had a couple of commissioners that were ill, and so we had to meet remotely. Forest Preserve Commission, see me with any information there. I'm going to save you guys a pain. Their agenda can be found online. Their meeting was held on June 14th at 9 a.m. If anyone needs information, give me a holler. And the convention, Aurora Area Convention Visitors Bureau is meeting this Thursday, so I will have updates at the next board meeting. That is all.
Thank you. That is an update. Appreciate all of it. Residents report. I just want to let you know, I did attend the Groove in the Grove last week. I thought it was very well attended. So if you were there was quite a large turnout. That concert was great. One little hiccup with the food truck that didn't show, but hopefully that has been resolved and they'll be there for the next two concerts. Echoing I had on my schedule, echoing the Metro West is on Thursday evening this week, the barbecue. And also, I just, as our village kickoff to our Food Truck Fridays this coming Friday, I just want to thank J&S Construction and Four Seasons Landscaping for sponsoring the food truck events this year. So both the 24th of June and the 9th of September. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Everybody should stay cool and hydrated when you're out in this heat. We have no additional business, no need to go into closed session. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
We do have to go to closed session.
We do?
The review of the executive session minutes.
To review the executive session minutes?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so can I get a motion? Are we taking any action in there?
Not this meeting.
No.
No.
No, this is for the board to review them, and then in a subsequent meeting, they would release any that are eligible to be released.
Okay, thank you. So can I get a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss our closed session minutes?
Yeah, the regular review of executive session minutes.
Okay, review of executive session minutes and adjourn from there.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I got a first go to Trustee White and second to Trustee Heron. Roll call, please.
Trustee White?
No.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy? Aye. Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
Trustee Walter?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.